If my sister-in-law says one more word about my mother's house, I will stop being polite about it. I wasn't raising my voice. I was standing in my own kitchen, holding a mug of coffee that had gone cold 20 minutes ago, looking at my brother across the counter, while his fiancée sat on my couch, scrolling her phone like she owned the place. She had just made a comment, casual, offhand, the way she always made her worst comments, about how it was such a waste for one person to be sitting on all that equity. She meant my mother's house. She meant my inheritance. And she was smiling when she said it, because she had never once been afraid of me. That ends today, I thought. But I didn't say it out loud. I just set my mug down and looked at my brother until he looked away first. Before I tell you what she did, the moment I turned my back, drop a comment and let me know where you're watching from. I want to see how far this story travels. I'm 31. I work as a licensed CPA at a mid-size accounting firm in Charlotte, North Carolina. I am not dramatic. I do not have a flair for conflict. I keep a color-coded spreadsheet for my grocery budget, and I file my taxes in February, before anyone else since I know has even located their W-2s. I say all of this because when I tell you what happened, I need you to understand that I did not overreact. I did not imagine it, and I was not confused. My mother passed away 18 months ago from a stroke. She was 62. She had a paid-off house in Raleigh. 3 bedrooms, good neighborhood, worth somewhere between $340,000 and $360,000, depending on which comparables you pulled. She also had a small investment account and a life insurance policy. Everything was split evenly between me and my brother Darren, in a will that she had updated 4 years before she died, witnessed, notarized, and filed with her estate attorney. Darren and I had always been close enough. Not confide everything close, but show up when it matters close. Then he started dating Melissa, and slowly, the way water reshapes stone, she started reshaping him. Little things at first. He stopped coming to family dinners unless she came too. He started repeating her opinions back to me as if he'd always held them. He started looking at my mother's house the way you look at something you've already decided belongs to you. My mother had been sick for 2 years before she died. I was the one who drove her to her cardiology appointments. I was the one who sat with her in the ER at 2 in the morning when her blood pressure spiked. I was the one who managed her medication schedule, coordinated her home care aides, handled the mountain of insurance paperwork that comes with a prolonged illness. Darren visited when it was convenient. Melissa visited when Darren did, which meant she visited the house with its paid-off mortgage and its desirable zip code and its beautiful original hardwood floors. Approximately 4 times in 2 years. She had a system, though. I saw it once, by accident, when I was sitting in Darren's apartment waiting for him to get off a work call. She had a notebook on the kitchen counter, the spiral kind, and it was open to a page covered in her neat, narrow handwriting. Numbers. I didn't read it closely, it wasn't mine to read, but I saw enough. There were dollar amounts next to what looked like dates, and at the top of the page, underlined twice, were the words, fair share. I thought about that notebook a lot after my mother died. About what Melissa thought fair meant. About the math she was doing when no one was watching. I was at my desk on a Tuesday morning in March, running a depreciation schedule for a commercial real estate client, when my phone lit up with a notification I didn't expect. It was from my credit monitoring service, the kind that sends you an alert whenever someone pulls your credit. I had set it up years ago out of professional habit. Most CPAs do. We understand better than most people what identity theft actually costs you, not just in dollars, but in time, in paperwork, in the slow grinding misery of disputing things that never should have appeared on your file in the first place. The alert said a mortgage pre-qualification inquiry had been run on my credit profile 43 hours ago. The lender was a name I didn't recognize. A regional outfit that specialized in bridge loans and investment property financing. The kind of lender you use when you want to move fast and you don't want a traditional bank asking too many questions. I put down my pen. I did not panic. I pulled up my full credit report and read through every line of the inquiry section. There was only the one. But one was enough. I called Darren. He picked up on the second ring, which meant he wasn't expecting the call to go badly. "Why is a bridge lender running my credit?" I asked. No greeting, no warm-up. There was a pause. The kind that means the person on the other end of the line is calculating how much you already know. "Oh, that," he said. "That's..." Melissa was looking into refinancing options for the estate property. You know how she is about research. She probably just used your name by mistake filling out a form. You don't accidentally put someone else's social security number on a mortgage inquiry form. You don't accidentally use their full legal name and date of birth and current address. Those fields don't autofill from someone else's profile. I know this because I help clients navigate these forms for a living. "She used my social security number," I said. "It was just preliminary," he said. "Nothing was approved. It's not a big deal." I told him I'd look into it and hung up before he could keep talking. Then I sat at my desk for exactly 4 minutes, staring at the wall, letting the anger settle into something cold and useful. After that, I opened a new tab and started working. I went directly to the lender's website. The portal was slick, the kind that was designed to funnel you towards signing as fast as possible. I typed in my email address, and the system recognized it immediately, which meant someone had already created an account using my information. It prompted me for a password I had never set. I clicked Forgot Password, entered my email, and waited for the reset link to arrive in my inbox. It came in under a minute. I reset credentials and logged in. The account dashboard was fully built out. Application status, conditional approval. Loan amount, $68,000. Purpose listed as investment property down payment. Estate buyout. The property address listed was my mother's house in Raleigh. I understood immediately what was happening. Melissa wasn't trying to steal money from a bank account. She was trying to use a loan taken out in my name to buy out my half of the estate. Essentially using my own credit to fund a transaction that would transfer my inheritance to her and my brother. And if the loan had gone through, and I had signed the closing documents under the impression they were routine estate paperwork, I would have been legally on the hook for $68,000 in high-interest debt while simultaneously losing my share of a $350,000 asset. The elegance of it, in a sick way, was impressive. She had found a mechanism that didn't look like theft until you understood all the moving parts. I went to the Documents tab. I wasn't interested in the interest rate. I was looking for something specific. Something most people don't know exists in electronic signature systems, but something I know very well because our firm uses these platforms for client agreements. Every digital signature generates what's called an audit certificate. It's a log that records the IP address, the device type, the timestamp, and the geolocation data for every interaction with the document from creation to signature. I opened the audit certificate. The electronic signature attributed to me had been applied on March 4th at 6:47 p.m. The IP address was registered to a residential location in Cary, North Carolina. I didn't need to look up the address. I knew it. It was my brother's apartment. On March 4th, I was sitting in a conference room in Uptown Charlotte, running a 3-hour audit review with 4 colleagues who could place me there down to the minute. She hadn't just forged my signature. She had left a digital trail so clean and complete, it could have been assembled by a prosecutor. I didn't feel betrayed anymore. That particular feeling had burned out somewhere around the 3rd paragraph of the loan application. What I felt instead was the very specific, very quiet satisfaction of someone who has just found exactly what they were looking for. I downloaded the audit certificate. I took screenshots of the dashboard, the application, the loan amount, the property address, and the approval status. I exported the document history. Then I changed the password and locked her out. She would think it was a technical glitch. She would spend 20 minutes trying to reset a password that would no longer accept her email. She wouldn't know why until it was far too late to matter. I created a new folder on my desktop. I labeled it with the case number I hadn't been assigned yet, but was already planning to request. I dragged everything into it. I closed the laptop. I sat in the silence of my apartment and thought about that notebook with the words fair share underlined at the top. She thought she knew what fair meant. I was about to give her a precise legal definition. Melissa called on a Thursday, 8 days after I had locked her out of the portal. "Hey you," she said, warm and bright, the way she always was when she wanted something. "I'm so glad I caught you. Listen, Darren and I have been talking, and we think we finally found a solution to the estate situation." I didn't say anything. I let the silence exist. "We found a buyer," she continued. "Someone who wants the Raleigh property as is, no repairs, and they're willing to close fast. The attorney says we just need both signatures on the release of interest form and the estate closing documents. It's just a formality. You're basically just confirming you're aware of the sale and releasing the title to the estate executor so it can transfer properly." She was describing a form that didn't exist. There is no standard estate document called a release of interest form. The closest thing is a deed of release, and signing one doesn't just confirm your awareness of a sale, it transfers your legal claim on the property. If I had signed what she was actually describing, I would have been voluntarily surrendering my half of the estate while simultaneously becoming liable for the $68,000 loan that was still sitting in conditional approval in my name. "Where's the closing?" I asked. I kept my voice flat, uninterested, the tone of someone who was cooperating because it was easier than arguing. "Downtown," she said, "at the title company on Tryon Street. Next Wednesday at 1 o'clock. It'll take maybe an hour. We can grab lunch after." She was so certain. I could hear it in the texture of her voice, that particular confidence of someone who has already spent the money in their head. She had probably already picked out furniture. "I'll be there," I said. She exhaled. Just slightly. The release of someone who had been holding their breath. "Perfect," she said. "You're going to love this, I promise. It's the right move for all of us." After I hung up, I opened the folder on my desktop and pulled up the contact information for the North Carolina Attorney General's Financial Crimes Unit and the Federal Trade Commission's Identity Theft Reporting Portal. I also called my personal attorney, a woman I had used for contract reviews for 3 years, and told her what I had. She told me to come in the next morning. I did. I walked out of her office 2 hours later with a notarized affidavit of identity theft, a fraud alert placed on my credit file with all 3 bureaus, and a very clear understanding of exactly what would happen in that conference room on Wednesday. The title company on Tryon Street was the kind of place that made debt feel like an achievement. Clean glass walls, a reception desk with a real orchid on it, a conference room with a long dark table and a bowl of hard candies that no one was eating. The closing officer's name was Mr. Avery, and he had the careful, slightly tired manner of a man who had presided over a great many transactions and had long since stopped being surprised by human behavior. Melissa was already there when I arrived. She was wearing a blazer I hadn't seen before. Gray, structured, the kind of thing you buy when you're trying to look like you belong somewhere. She was talking to Mr. Avery with both hands moving, something about the property's potential as a short-term rental. My brother sat beside her with his hands folded on the table, looking at nothing in particular. He was pale. He had been pale the last 3 times I'd seen him. He knew I looked at him, and I knew that he knew. Maybe not every detail. Maybe he had told himself a version of the story where this was just aggressive financial planning, not fraud. But somewhere underneath the rationalizing, he knew this wasn't right, and he was sitting there anyway because it was easier than the alternative. His silence was going to cost him. I was wearing my work clothes. Blazer, slacks, the kind of outfit that says I am not here to be dismissed. I set my bag on the table and sat across from Melissa and my brother. Mr. Avery gave me a polite nod and shuffled his papers. "All right," he said. "Standard closing today with an estate component. We'll go through the mortgage finalization first, then the deed transfer, and then the release documents. I'll need everyone to verify their information on each form before signing." He slid the first packet toward Melissa. This is the Uniform Residential Loan Application. Form 1003. This finalizes the loan terms and certifies the source of the down payment. Please review page 4, section M, particularly the declaration regarding borrowed funds. I watched Melissa pick up the pen. Her posture was relaxed. She had rehearsed this. She was so deep inside her own version of events, the one where she was just efficiently managing a complicated family situation, that she couldn't perceive the danger in the room. She flipped to page 4. Mr. Avery read the declaration aloud in the same tone he probably used for every closing. The borrower certifies that the down payment of $68,000 currently held in escrow represents personal funds and is not the product of any undisclosed loan, gift, or borrowed funds. Is that accurate? The room was very quiet. I had thought about this moment for 8 days. I had thought about what it would feel like to watch her commit to the lie in writing, to cross the line from civil matter to federal crime. There was a part of me that wanted to stop her, not to protect her, but to protect my brother, who was going to be sitting next to her when everything collapsed. That impulse lasted maybe 3 seconds. If I stopped her now, it was a family argument. She would reframe it as a misunderstanding. She would cry. She would tell my brother I was being vindictive. I needed the pen to touch the paper. I needed the signature to exist. You don't win by firing early. You win by waiting until there is no room left for interpretation. Yes, Melissa said, her voice clear and steady. That is accurate. She checked the box, confirming the funds were not borrowed. She signed her name. The pen made a small, definitive sound against the paper. Mr. Avery passed the documents to my brother. He hesitated, his hand hovering for just a moment over the signature line. Melissa placed her hand lightly on his forearm. He signed. Excellent, said Mr. Avery, collecting the papers. Now, we just need your signature on the deed of release and the accompanying gift letter, confirming your voluntary transfer of interest in the estate property. He turned to me and slid the final packet across the table. Melissa looked at me with the expression of someone crossing a finish line. I did not pick up the pen. Instead, I reached into my bag. The file I set on the table wasn't dramatic looking. Just a standard manila folder, maybe a 1/4 inch thick. But when it landed on that polished mahogany surface, the sound was enough to make Mr. Avery look up. I'm not able to sign this, I said, clearly and evenly. I made sure to face the security camera mounted in the corner above the door. I had clocked it the moment I walked in. The down payment funds listed in this application were obtained through a loan applied for in my name without my knowledge or consent. That is not my signature on the application. I did not authorize this transaction. Melissa made a sound that was somewhere between a laugh and a protest. That's completely, Mr. Avery, I said, and slid the folder to him. This is a notarized affidavit of identity theft, filed with the FTC and the North Carolina Attorney General's office. Beneath it is the lender's own audit certificate, which shows that the electronic signature attributed to me was applied from an IP address registered to my brother's home address in Cary, North Carolina, on March 4th at 6:47 p.m. Mr. Avery opened the folder. His expression didn't shift dramatically, but I watched his body go very still. On March 4th, I continued, I was conducting an audit review at my firm's offices in Uptown Charlotte. My timesheet, my badge swipe records, and 4 colleagues can confirm my location from noon to 7 p.m. I looked at my brother. He was staring at the table. She used my social security number, my date of birth, my current address, and she just signed a federal mortgage document certifying that the down payment, a down payment funded by a fraudulent loan taken out in my name, represents her personal savings. That's a lie. Melissa started. If this transaction is funded, I said, still looking at Mr. Avery, knowing that the down payment is the product of identity theft and wire fraud, you and this institution become exposed to accessory liability under federal statute. I had gone over this part twice with my attorney. I delivered it the same way she had, not as a threat, but as information. Mr. Avery closed the folder. He was quiet for a moment. Then he stood, pulled the entire packet of closing documents away from the center of the table, and said, "This closing is suspended pending review. No funds will be disbursed. I need to contact our compliance officer and legal team before this transaction can proceed in any form." He looked at me with something that wasn't quite respect, but was close to it. "Is there anything else I should have for our records?" "My attorney's contact information," I said. I had a card ready. I set it on the table. Melissa shoved back from her chair, so hard it scraped against the floor. She was talking loudly. The exact kind of performance you put on when you know the facts are not going to save you. My brother said nothing. He looked the way people look after a car accident, present but not quite processing. I stood, picked up my bag, and walked toward the door. The elevator bank was just past the reception desk. I pressed the call button. Melissa came through the conference room door 30 seconds later, and when the elevator opened, she stepped in right behind me. I moved to the far side. The doors closed. "You just blew up our entire family," she said. Her voice had dropped. The performance was gone. This was the real one. "You committed federal crimes," I said. "I documented them." She reached for the folder that was in my bag, a grab, fast, both hands. I stepped to the side, caught her wrist, and pinned her arm against the elevator wall in a hold that was firm and completely non-aggressive. I had taken a self-defense course 2 years ago. Something I'd done after a client situation that made me nervous walking to my car at night. The instructor had been very specific about technique. Control without damage, especially in spaces with cameras. I had noticed the elevator camera when I got in. I don't think she had. "This is a boundary," I told her. My voice was the same as it had been in the conference room. Level. Uninterested in drama. "You don't cross it anymore." When the doors opened on the lobby level, there was a security guard waiting. Mr. Avery had called ahead. I released her arm and stepped back. "She attempted to take evidence from my possession," I said to the guard. "There's elevator footage." They escorted her to a separate area. I walked out through the front doors into the gray March afternoon and sat on a bench on the sidewalk and called my attorney. My hands were steady. I noted that, the way I note anomalies in financial documents, as a data point worth acknowledging, the months that followed were administrative. That's the only word for it. The identity theft report triggered an investigation. The lender pulled the application the same day the title company filed its compliance report. The FTC complaint, combined with my attorney's letter to the North Carolina AG's office, generated a formal referral. Wire fraud, identity theft, attempted bank fraud. Melissa was indicted on all 3 counts 4 months after the closing that never happened. My brother was not charged. He had signed a document knowing it contained misrepresentations, and his attorney negotiated that down to a civil matter. But the plea agreement required him to surrender any claim to proceeds from the estate property until the fraud debts were resolved. His share of our mother's house will spend years entangled in civil litigation. He has called me twice. I haven't answered either time. The estate closed 6 weeks ago through the proper process, with the actual estate attorney my mother had appointed, and proper documentation, and my actual signature on the actual forms. My half of the proceeds went into a money market account while I decide what to do with it. I haven't decided yet. Right now, I mostly just like knowing it's there. My mother's house sold to a family. A couple with 2 kids who wanted the school district. The realtor sent me a photo of the new owners out front, just a generic listing update. But I looked at it for a long time. She would have liked that, I think. She always said a house was meant to have noise in it. I still have the folder. Not the copy I gave Mr. Avery. My copy, the original, it's in a file drawer in my home office between my tax returns and my lease agreement. I don't look at it often. I don't need to. There's a version of this story where I feel sad about it, where the ending is mostly grief. For my brother, for the relationship we had before he chose her narrative over his own conscience. For the family my mother thought she was leaving behind. That version is true, and I feel it sometimes. Usually around the holidays when I notice I have nowhere in particular to be. But there's another version too, The one where I checked my credit report on a random Tuesday morning. Because it's just something I do. Because I built habits around protecting myself long before I had anything this significant to protect. The one where her arrogance, her absolute certainty that I would not look, that I would not understand what I was seeing, that I would show up and sign whatever was put in front of me, was the thing that undid her completely. She handed me the evidence. She created the paper trail. She scheduled the closing. I just showed up. Security isn't a feeling. It's a password you change before they realize the lock is yours.